So I guess then the question becomes, the push for artificial intelligence that I've watched from my time in the tech world in San Francisco way back when always seemed to have this idea that everything human could be represented with an equation. That all the human could be boiled down. It's fundamentally materialistic in the most gross sort of way. And I've never liked it. I obviously never agreed with it. But there's a component here of like, maybe we can't represent everything about what it means to be human with an equation. Maybe it's not all math. Maybe it's not all, electrical signals in the brain and atoms bumping into each other. Maybe there's more to us than just numbers.
Not only is that true, I think that presents one of our greatest opportunities and advantages in technology. So another way that we can win, the question I wake up every day and ask is, how can we win? Because ultimately, if we're not trying for something at that scale, I don't think we're ambitious enough. They are on a highly destructive path with society. There are many, many ways for us to gain the upper hand. So what you described points to one. I think they have a powerful blind spot about human nature and about technology, and it's going to lead them to make major mistakes. We don't just have a different set of values. So often I think conservative investing is boiled down to values. We have a values filter. We don't like to invest in companies that do abortion. We view the world fundamentally. It's the assumption is we view the world very similarly. We just like different things than they do. I don't think that's right. I think they have fundamentally flawed views of the world. And if we believe we're right and they're wrong, there should be profoundly important implications of that when it comes to investment and entrepreneurial decisions. And one of those is how you bet on technology with respect to people. So they have a view that is a highly optimistic view that AI can replace many, many aspects of people. I believe I have a more pessimistic view of AI. I also have a far more optimistic view of people than they do. And I don't believe it can. And I'm willing to bet that in many, many categories, the category winner is going to be a tool that complements people rather than replaces people. And to give an example of this, and it's not even going to AI, it's even simpler. Mm-hmm. For 50 years, Silicon Valley and economists, again, common foe in the space, for 50 years, Silicon Valley and economists have had this idea that we should be able to replace brokers. We should be able to engineer away their functions, that they're nothing but a transaction cost that's an inefficiency in the system. And they've tried and failed many times to replace brokers. And what they've failed to do is they've failed to understand the sort of profoundly important role that brokers play in mediating trust in deeply complex systems. And there's a whole range of functions. They play tacit knowledge, trust, just all sorts of things that are way more complicated than they imagine that some sort of fairly simple pricing algorithm or whatever can achieve. And I think it's a reflection of the technocratic mindset failing to appreciate the complexity of human society and really how entrepreneurial finance is actually value creating in important ways. And if they failed at that, that's an opportunity to take the other side of that trade. You're certainly going to avoid mistakes that they're going to make. But in many cases, technology is going to change the sector. And the only question is, what piece of technology is going to be the winner? And if they have a pessimistic view of people, they'll likely bet on the one that replaces people wholesale. If we have a more optimistic view of the people, we may well bet on the one that empowers those people to do their work more productively. And winning a category like that could be $1 trillion business. That could be, in some cases, those could be major disruptive category winners that shape the nature of the digital age. So how do we win? We win by recognizing and exploiting their blind spots. And I think disruptive technology is one of the best places to do that.
Do you ever feel like you're reclaiming some of the early pioneering spirit of the digital entrepreneurial age, like Hewlett Packard and Apple in their very early days, that were very committed to they believed in people. They created initially human empowering technologies by humans who created the technologies rather than this purely technocratic bureaucracies that they've become?
Absolutely. I think early Silicon Valley was
Yeah.
in many ways a sort of pinnacle of the American spirit, of the combination of pioneering with tinkering. And in many ways, I think American business and American entrepreneurship has been a triumph of practical entrepreneurs, people who figure out how to make things that work and build things. It's not rooted in abstract theory. And Silicon Valley embodied that combination. Now, I would say that early Silicon Valley was largely without God, and that set the stage. They had a view of the person. There was a high view of the person that was grounded in the Christian vision of society, the Protestant culture that had built our country, but had lost it at that point. So it was not consciously using that technology to glorify God. It was more likely technology for the advance of technology's sake, which I think is something that we saw in the middle of the century. They accomplished great things because they did have, in many ways, a correct view of the person and a correct view of. There were many great things about it, but it led to a sort of natural trajectory that tended to become an entirely technical way of viewing the world and technocratic way of viewing the world that merges with a broader progressivism, which is actually self-defeating for that, because the progressivism in turn strips out the humanity from society, and stripping out the humanity is going to destroy the conditions that allow for that entrepreneurial innovation. So I think we need to recover that. We need to rediscover that. We need to really remobilize people who many Americans still are drawn to that system and still hold those values. But we need to do so in a way that is thoroughly anchored to a positive Christian vision that's going to maintain the foundation for that type of innovation.
Now that is an exciting vision, to imagine the early days of Silicon Valley paired with the Christian ethic, with the Christian worldview. That is exciting.
Absolutely. And that I think motivates people in a way that I see every day when I talk to people who are recognizing something that we haven't seen, up to this point. And it's really something new. It's new in our lifetimes. It's new in generations.